So for step 10, attaching the rear suspension. Well, we've got to grab our dog bones and then put the suspension pieces that we built 2 steps ago onto the rear gearbox, and it's all done by the screw pins. So we have to grease up the drive shafts and then grease up our screw pins and put this on. Now you'll see here, there's our screw pins again, and notice that it's a grayed out rear drive shaft, meaning that it is the darker colored one, because there's another set of dog bones that are silver more or less in color. Now they might be a different length too, but this grayed out versus the white clear diagram definitely shows you the difference. So I'll set this up and let's put it together. So before we cut to the video of putting this together, I need you to know I made a mistake. And in trying to get all these videos out the way I wanted to, so that you had the first 12 to view, I may have rushed through this one a little too quick. So I'm going to show you what I did, and it's an easy fix, but it still is an error. If you notice, this is dark, and under my own reasoning, which follows through most of the manual, we have a dark and a light drive shaft. So my own reasoning is this is the dark drive shaft, and it pretty much fits exactly on the mark. But this drive shaft is actually slightly longer and fits the diagram even better. The other thing to make note of is that if you just go to step 10 and you look at that and you think, yeah, that must be it. But this rib on the middle, it means something. Because if you go a step farther and you go into step 13, notice it's the grayed out shaft again, but they're showing this center tube, which actually means this fits perfectly onto there. So the point is, in the step you're about to see, I put in these drive shafts, and it should have been these drive shafts. So I've already corrected one, and I mean, if for some reason you ended up doing this, it's super easy to fix, because all I did was unscrew this screw right here and slide out the other drive shaft and put the new one in. Now the one thing I did notice by doing so, because the drive shaft is slightly longer, it actually looks like, even though it comes to the end, it doesn't look like it's going to be in a position where it might pop out. So note to self, for the rear, those are wrong, these are correct. So you want these drive shafts for step 10. Now everything else I do is how I would do it, but just note, these are the drive shafts you want for step 10. So before we get started on this step, I do want to show you something. Here is the grease that comes in the kit, and notice I'm already right down to the end. Well, in showing you this, I don't really want to spend my time trying to squeeze out the grease all the time. So I've decided to open up a spare tube of grease that I have here on hand, and this is their Sarah grease. And I would highly recommend getting some extra, because I think depending on how you use the grease, you may find you run out, and you don't want to do that. The other thing is, this grease is identical to what comes out of this little tube. So it's another reason why I'd rather have the grease that's the same than anything else. So I'm going to start using this tube because it's a little easier to use, and because it's got this sort of extra piece, I can squeeze into smaller spaces as well, so that's kind of nice. So I'm going to be using my spare grease going forward. Now, let's get to the step. So as you can see, we've got the longer screw pins that are going to go at the bottom, and I think that's what I'm going to do first right now, is let's start working on this side. And you can see that we've got a screw pin that's going to go at the bottom. So let's grease that one up. And we're going to take this, we're going to attach this to the bottom. So that screw pin is going to go through there, in through the holes. There we go. And now we can screw this in. And again, I'm kind of using my finger over here to stop it from moving up. There we go. And then you can see that we need to put the drive shaft in. So if we grab one of our drive shafts, we know that they want you to grease both ends. So let's do that. So we'll grease our ball end here. And we'll grease the other ball end here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stick one end into the drive joint. Going to stick the other into the other drive joint. You might have to spin that so that it'll fit. And now we're in a position where we can screw in the smaller screw pin. So we've got to grease that up. And you don't have to put too much on there, just enough that it's lubed up. And then we're going to stick that through there, through the top, through the other side. And now we're going to screw that in place. And there we go. So there is one side of the rear end complete. And you can see the dog bone inside there moving around quite a bit actually. But it doesn't slide out, so it's comes to the end, but there's lots of play. So there's one side. So now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're going to grab our lower arms, we're going to grab our lower or our larger screw pin, and we're going to grease it up. There we go. And we'll take our arms, we'll stick that through there and through the hole. We can find the hole. Come on. There we go. Now we've got it through the hole, and we can screw this in. There we go. It's nice and loose. So, same idea. We're now going to grease up the ball ends of these axles. Same on the other side. And now we're going to stick that one inside of there. And again, we're going to find the placement of this. I'll try and hold it a different way so you can see what I'm doing. We need to make sure that that's in the right place. There we go. And now it can sit because it's not going to come out. And now we have to grab the other screw pin, grease it up. There we go. And now we're going to slide this through. And now we can screw it down. And there we go. So there is the rear axles in place. So that means that step 10 is complete. So now we're going to move on to step 11 and start working on the front uprights.